and she apologizes to Keyaru for attacking him despite the fact that he had restored her lost arm. She assures him she will assist in whatever way, and then moves closer to him to kiss him because she is now feeling so saz. Keyaru, who is one never to miss leg day, so he seizes the opportunity and starts to work out his lower body, pounding her bunda till they become red. Meanwhile, Renard, having received permission from the king, is on a desperate search for Keyaru. The next day, while Keyaru and the girls are gathered at a table eating, they suddenly hear someone calling out to Keyaru from outside. They look through the window and see that it's Renard and his team who have captured the people from Keyaru's village. Realizing it's a trap to lure him out, Keyaru tells Korehad to investigate the situation with his village. Korehad agrees to do her best, and Keyaru gives her a kiss for luck. Meanwhile, Renard questions one of his subordinates about any information on Keyaru. The soldier reports that nothing useful has been discovered yet. Renard, frustrated and angry, berates them for their incompetence and mentions that the pain in his right eye suggests Keyaru is nearby. His irritation is compounded by his growing displeasure with his own reflection, as he is disguised as Keyaru. Renard confidently declares that he will unalive Keyaru and starts laughing maniacally while Anna is bound behind him. At the same time, Korehad informs Keyaru that the soldiers attacked his village, accusing them of harboring heretical beliefs related to the recovery hero. Keyaru smirks, noting that such tactics are typical of Renard's methods. When Setsuna asks if he's finding any satisfaction in this, he replies that he's actually filled with sadness and anger. Expressing gratitude to Korehad, Keyaru mentions he's going for a walk. He then uses a disguise to assume the appearance of a soldier they had previously isekai'd en route to see Goldman. While hiding in the shadows of the city, Keyaru observes soldiers escorting slaves. Spotting one particular soldier he recognizes as Mollet, he seizes the opportunity and pulls him aside, so Keyaru reveals himself as Murda. Recognizing the name, Mollet engages in conversation. Murda explains that during an earlier encounter with a man using techniques of the Sword Saint, he fled the battle and, fearing execution, went into hiding. He asks Mollet if he can deliver a letter to Renard, requesting his pardon and inviting him to rejoin the army. He also inquires about the fate of the villagers, and Mollet reveals that they have all been captured. Mollet then talks about how he enjoyed Renard's cruel treatment of a particular lady to whom Renard did some naughty acts, the type you would only watch when you are alone. Keyaru realizes that the woman is Anna, which deeply hurts him. Renard visits Murda in the evening and asks about Keyaru's whereabouts. Murda responds by asking Renard to promise to pardon him and allow him back into the army. Renard agrees to drop all charges if Murda reveals Keyaru's location. Murda then reveals himself as Keyaru, having been in disguise. Renard and his soldiers attempt to draw their weapons, but are weakened by the neurotoxin incense Keyaru is burning. Keyaru uses his healing abilities to delve into Renard's mind and witnesses the atrocities committed against Anna. Enraged, he exacts revenge by turning him from bro to hoe and then feeding him to some thirsty men who would destroy her with their weapons of mass destruction so he can experience the same thing he did to Anna. Renard begs for forgiveness, but Keyaru ignores him and sets them on fire. Desperate to find Anna, Keyaru rushes to her location, only to find her on the brink of death. Despite his attempts to heal her, he is unable to save her. The following day, Korehad informs Keyaru that the villagers are set to be executed at the Colosseum. She explains the dangers of the place, mentioning how it's heavily secured with barriers that prevent magic users from intervening. Despite his fear, Keyaru insists on going because he knows that saving the villagers is crucial to his goal of fixing the country. Korehad offers her assistance and mentions that she's heard of Norn's return from abroad, which surprises both Keyaru and Freya. Keyaru is concerned about Norn but reassures himself that she hasn't harmed him in this timeline, even though in his past life she had known he had regained his senses and manipulated him to spy on her sister, among other things. On the day of the execution, Keyaru steps forward from the crowd and leaps into the arena as the spectators shout for his elimination. The executor warns him to stay back, offering a deal. If Keyaru surrenders, the villagers will be spared, and he will be given a dignified burial. However, Keyaru laughs at the suggestion and questions their confidence in being able to isekai him. As some soldiers advance to attack him, he reminds them that he's got plot armor, so he can't die. Undeterred, he continues to approach the executor and the soldiers. The executor, in a last-ditch effort, threatens to kill the villagers, But Keyaru remains super chilled and declares that he will save at least some of them, if not all, making the executor realize this dude is high on cheap crack. The executor orders the soldiers to begin executing the villagers, prompting Keyaru to vow revenge, stating that their actions have given him all the justification he needs to delete them all without hesitation. The executor then commands the activation of a barrier meant to suppress Keyaru's powers. However, they soon realize that the barrier is only affecting them and those wearing the jewels that are supposed to protect them from its effects. Suddenly, Freya appears, projected over the entire arena, disguised as Flare. The crowd, seeing Flare, listens as she reveals the dark side of the kingdom. She claims that Keyaru rescued her and took her away from the kingdom. She urges the people to fight for justice and for the demi-humans oppressed by the kingdom. Initially, the crowd is skeptical, but when she begins to sing Tyla's water song and appeals to their courage, they begin to believe it is truly Flare. Inspired by her words, they turn against the kingdom's soldiers, launching an attack on the kingdom's forces. Afterward, Keyaru hands over a surviving child from the captured villagers to Goldman, explaining that he could only save this one because the others were poisoned beyond help. Goldman comments on Keyaru's supposed softness, noting that even after betraying him, Keyaru still trusts him with the child and is even paying him a huge amount. However, Keyaru tells him to drop the useless hype, saying he is hard as a rock.
She knows.
He is doing this because he has a goal, and Goldman is just a pawn whom he can sacrifice any time. He further tells Goldman that the child will wake up with resentment toward him, but he instructs Goldman not to correct the child, as he wants the boy to grow up believing that the villagers died because of him, fueling his anger and desire for revenge, which will give him the reason to keep living just like himself. Following this, Keyaru bids farewell to Kureha as he prepares to leave the city with Setsuna and Freya. He asks her to continue gathering information, and she informs him that Norn is planning an attack on a city called Bernica. Keyaru muses that Bernica might be the perfect place to confront Norn, as this was not part of her plans in his previous life, indicating that the future might have changed. Meanwhile, at the kingdom, Norn is furious with her subordinates for allowing Keyaru to escape. She vows to capture him this time and insists on proceeding with her plan to attack Bernica despite her brainwashed subordinate questioning whether she should. Keyaru, Setsuna, and Freya arrive in Bernica, and as they explore the area, they decide to stop by a local restaurant, where they notice an unusual mix of humans and demons dining together peacefully. After being seated by a waiter, they find themselves sharing a table with both a human and a demon. Curious, Keyaru asks how such harmony between the two races came to be. The human and demon explain that things were very different 2 decades ago. Back then, tension and conflict were the norms. However, when the kingdom abandoned them, their king reached out to the demon king with a proposal for peace. The demon king accepted, leading to a treaty that allowed both races to coexist and prosper in Bernica. Their conversation is interrupted when the waiter returns, asking if another customer can join their table. Keyaru and his companions agree, but Keyaru is shocked to see that the new arrival is none other than the Demon King from his previous life. However, she now has black hair instead of the silver hair he remembers. As the conversation progresses, the demon mentions that he's never actually seen the Demon King despite being a demon himself. The human speculates that the Demon King might be some gigachad with massive fangs and countless horns. However, Keyaru corrects them, stating that the Demon King is far from what they imagine, and says she's actually quite adorable. He then points to the girl beside him, revealing that she is the Demon King. The others laugh at his stupidity, saying it's called Demon King for a reason and not a Demon Queen. Keyaru then wonders aloud if it would be a problem if the Demon King were from the Black Wing tribe. The demon responds that it would definitely cause chaos in the restaurant since the Demon King has placed a bounty on members of that tribe, whether dead or alive. As their discussion continues, a group of demons suddenly attack Keyaru and his companions, aiming for the Demon King candidate at the table, blocking the incoming fire, surprising Keyaru at how strong the demon girl is. Amid the chaos, the Demon King candidate is struck by a poisoned arrow in her thigh. As she begins to lose consciousness, Keyaru urges her to hire him so he can assist her. Despite her hesitation, she eventually agrees to ask for his help. One of the ugly monsters attack, but Keyaru spills his blood through all his holes. He then carries the demon girl and escapes with her. Once they reach their home, Keyaru asks Freya and Setsuna to give them some privacy. Along with the demon girl, he reveals to her that he knows she's destined to become the future Demon King and offers his protection from the current one. Surprised, she questions how much he knows about her, and Keyaru surprises her even more by addressing her by her true name, Eve. When she asks about his price, Keyaru tells her that in exchange for his help, he wants the heart of the current demon king. Eve hesitates and tells him she'll consider his proposal. The next morning, Eve wakes up to the best music in anime history, and she is shocked when she sees that they are doing kip dances. Later on, during breakfast, Keyaru convinces Eve to join them on their journey, assuring her that they will protect her from any threats. He also promises that they will eliminate the current demon, enabling her to save the rest of the Blackwing tribe. Eve agrees to travel with them, offering to compensate them with the Demon King's heart, which is also known as the Philosopher's Stone. Afterward, while Keyaru speaks privately with Eve, he reveals that the Blackwing tribe is known for being powerful demons capable of controlling monsters. He inquires if she has a monster under her command. Eve confirms but mentions that it's challenging to maintain control because it requires passing difficult trials to ensure obedience. Keyaru offers to assist her, stating that they need more combat power. When he asks what kind of monster it is, she reveals that it's a god known as the diving bird of fatal disease, Cadrius, shocking him. He insists they should see it right away, but Eve hesitates, warning that they might contract diseases. However, Keyaru reassures her, boasting that as the hero of recovery, he can heal them no matter what. Afterward, he instructs Setsuna and Freya to look after Eve while he goes out to gather information. He pulls up in a new face to the restaurant where he was previously attacked by the Mad Cow crew. Soon, a member of the Mad Cow crew arrives, riding a ferocious bull since he has no Lamborghini, and he tries to attack Keyaru. However, Keyaru evades the assault. The demon boasts that no matter how much Keyaru changes his appearance, he can still recognize him by scent. In response, Keyaru strikes the bull, causing the demon to flee, but Keyaru is determined to take revenge on them. Later that night, after another session of the PG-18 scene with Setsuna and Freya, while Eve goons at their music from outside, Keyaru and Setsuna head out to confront the Mad Cow crew. They trap the crew in a pit and demand to know who else is aware of Eve's identity. The crew insists they're the only ones who know, and while Keyaru pretends to believe them, he leaves them to be devoured by their own pet in the pit. Following this, Keyaru secures a room and declares that all four of them will share it, but Eve protests, saying he should consider her, who is not comfortable listening to their plot jams. However, Keyaru states that he won't let her out of his sight since she is in danger. While wandering through the marketplace, Keyaru and Freya notice men frantically shouting that soldiers from the Imperial Kingdom have entered the city. Concerned, Keyaru instructs Freya to return to the inn without him. Climbing up a nearby tower, Keyaru spots the approaching soldiers and realizes that Norn, the most ruthless and cunning temptress in the kingdom, has arrived. However, he also notices Blade, the hero of Sword, who is also a target of his vendetta. However, his attention is drawn to another individual, Hawkeye, who seems to sense someone watching from the tower. Realizing he might be discovered, Keyaru quickly descends from the tower and makes his escape. Later, Keyaru is joined by his companions and the merchant he had been dealing with the previous day. Over a shared meal, which Keyaru praises, the merchant named Carmen agrees, calling it the finest food available. Carmen shares his aspiration to expand his business and open a larger shop in the city. In turn, Keyaru reveals that he is an alchemist and proposes a business arrangement, which Carmen gladly accepts. However, Carmen also warns Keyaru to be cautious of Blade, who is notorious for capturing and abusing women throughout the city. Keyaru begins to formulate a plan to lure Blade into a trap by using Freya as bait. But after considering the risks, particularly the chance that Norn might recognize Freya as Flare due to her obsession, he rethinks this approach. He briefly considers using Ii or Setsuna instead but decides against it. However, after hammering their cakes, he reasons that he won't want his toys to be violated. The following morning, Keyaru asks Freya to apply makeup on him, and then he transforms his body into that of a woman. Disguised, he ventures out with the goal of catching Blade's attention. On the way, he is ambushed by 3 men, but he whoops their asses. Keyaru proceeds to a bar that Blade is known to frequent during her predatory outings. After ordering a drink, Blade arrives and they begin to converse. Keyaru pretends to be friendly and Blade, thinking she has the upper hand, offers another drink, secretly drugging it. However, when Keyaru suggests that Blade drink it herself, she does so, then suddenly kisses him, transferring the drug liquid into his mouth. Keyaru collapses as a result. Blade carries the unconscious Keyaru back to her place, But on the way, she is confronted by a man seeking revenge for his daughter, one of Blade's victims. As the man charges at Blade, she throws Keyaru's body at him. To Blade's shock, Keyaru jumps in the air, kicking the man to the ground and declaring that the revenge is his. Surprised by Keyaru's resistance to the drug, Blade demands to know who he is, but Keyaru doesn't respond. The two engage in a fierce battle, with Keyaru wielding a sword gifted by Carmen. However, Blade's healing weapon makes her a formidable opponent, and she eventually overpowers Keyaru, seizing him by the neck. Expressing her admiration for strong women, Blade knocks Keyaru unconscious and drags him to her lair. She begins to make out with Keyaru. She puts her hand down there and finds a limping sausage, shocking her. She becomes disgusted as she reasons that she has been freaky with a man, all the while thinking it's a woman. Keyaru breaks his chains and stabs Blade with a poisoned knife, making her weak. However, she desperately reaches for her Ragnarok sword, which could heal her, but Keyaru prevents her from doing so, and he tells her he can finally begin his revenge. Keyaru uses his heal ability to learn from touching Blade that Norn is preparing a massive search and destroy operation within days. In response, Keyaru takes Blade to a dark room and brings out 3 hungry, feisty demons, telling her to entertain them or face being devoured. Blade pleads for mercy, asking him to forgive her, but Keyaru coldly reminds her of how she would not have shown him mercy if their roles were reversed. He offers her a chance. If she can satisfy the demons until sunrise, he will let her go. With no other choice, Blade submits immediately, and the 3 men start to clap her from all directions while Keyaru enjoys the show. To further torment her, he transforms his appearance to resemble Flare, causing Blade to feel utterly humiliated. Overwhelmed, Blade loses the will to continue, and the demons consume her, leading to her demise. Afterward, her weapon reverts to a crystal ball, which Keyaru gleefully takes with him as he walks away, laughing like a moron. The next day, Keyaru is at Carmen's shop, where they discuss their business dealings and express mutual appreciation for their partnership. Suddenly, Keyaru hears Hawkeye's voice behind him and is immediately on alert, realizing how formidable Hawkeye must be since he didn't sense him approaching. Hawkeye, having learned that Keyaru was the one who created the medicine, offers him a place in their ranks. However, Keyaru declines, stating his love for traveling. Hawkeye then questions Keyaru about why he was observing them from a tower. Keyaru explains that seeing a large number of kingdom soldiers enter the city warranted caution, and seeing that he has a point, Hawkeye agrees but warns him not to do anything suspicious. Back at their hideout, Keyaru activates the gem he got from Blade and transforms into a weapon that he plans to use against his enemies and to protect the world. Feeling excited, he quickly works out with Freya and Setsuna while Eve watches in silence, wishing Keyaru could destroy her gates like that. The next day, Norn addresses the public, claiming that demons are using humans as livestock and calls for their eradication to return the city to human control. 2 of her men, hidden in the crowd, incite a fake attack on her, making it appear as though the demons are plotting against her. She orders her soldiers to unalive every brainwashed human and demon. As the soldiers massacre the citizens, Carmen is also eliminated, which enrages Keyaru.
Big bad bug got a bit of a soft spot, huh?
In a fury, he begins slaughtering every kingdom soldier he encounters, and when Norn hears of a swordsman decimating her forces, she commands her elite soldiers to stop him. Meanwhile, Freya uses her magic to project an image of herself across the city, introducing herself as Flare delivers a speech only Martin Luther King gave in his lifetime, urging the soldiers to cease fighting and stop killing innocent humans and demons, emphasizing that none of them are brainwashed. She shares how she has witnessed the bonds of love between humans and demons in this city. Moved by her words, the soldiers drop their weapons, and Norn becomes furious, wondering why the heck Flare is doing that. Keyaru suddenly bursts into the room, only to be confronted by Hawkeye. Norn confidently asserts that Keyaru cannot defeat Hawkeye, but the battle between them ensues regardless, with Norn watching the action film. As the fight intensifies, Hawkeye notices the lethal nature of Keyaru's weapon, Ragnarok, and vows to avoid contact with it. He attempts to poison Keyaru using small weapons, but Keyaru uses Ragnarok's ability to heal himself, shocking Hawkeye. The battle rages on until Keyaru finally manages to unalive Hawkeye by dismembering him with his heal skill, leaving Norn in shock. Keyaru then strikes Norn in the stomach and takes Norn to an underground chamber, where he begins to torture her. Despite her pleas for mercy, he refuses to forgive her, citing the death of his close friend Carmen and her callous remarks about him. With a twisted idea in mind, Keyaru tells Norn that if she can resist being seduced by Flare, who is now in the form of a dog, without making any happy noise, he might consider releasing her in the morning. Flare begins to play with Norn in a naughty way, but Norn is unable to control herself and succumbs to the sensations, making Keyaru mock her for still feeling saws in such a state. As punishment, Keyaru erases her memories and alters her appearance, then introduces her to everyone as his long-lost sister, Ellen, claiming they have been reunited in this city. Meanwhile, the Imperial King summons Bullet to hunt down Keyaru. Bullet, determined to find him, looks at Keyaru's poster and goons to it. Will Keyaru's thirst for revenge ever be satisfied? If you have reached this far, let's confuse the fake fans by commenting, "Rip Flare." Also, clap the like button if you love this recap, and subscribe to this channel for more legendary plot adventures.